Good evening. Welcome to our Wednesday, March 29, 2017 edition of the Government News Brief. In the news this evening, Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund for consultation soon, Parole Board actively playing its role to reintegrate convicts into society, and the government to promote aquaculture farming in Region 9. Details of these and other stories when the news returns. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here are the details. The Sovereign Wealth Fund bill will be available soon for public input as Guyana continues to update and create legislation to govern its emerging oil and gas sector. Tiffany Rodius has the details.
Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund bill was drafted by the Commonwealth Secretariat and presented to the Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, in December of 2016. The bill has since been handed over to the Ministry of Finance, who will be responsible for tabling it in the National Assembly. Minister Trotman explains that there will be public consultations on the bill.
It's hopefully not necessarily going to be passed this year into an act, but the intention is that later this year it will be brought to the public for examination, scrutiny, and improvement.
However, concerns over the implications of the bill in relation to Guyana's Consolidated Fund continue to be raised. Recently, Attorney at Law and Accountant Christopher Ram raised questions on how the bill will be accommodated within the context of Article 216.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund, commendable as it is, will certainly require a constitutional amendment. Unless, I don't know, by some legal genius, we create a Sovereign Wealth Fund perhaps as a sub-fund of the Consolidated Fund.
Article 216 of the Constitution requires that all monies payable to the state of Guyana have to go into the Consolidated Fund. Minister Trotman assures that government will not in any way flout the Constitution.
I believe my recollection is that monies will go with the approval of Parliament to the fund. If needed, we will have to make some adjustments, but the fund will not in any way try to do anything that is parallel or in contravention of the Constitution of Guyana.
A sovereign wealth fund is a state-owned investment fund where surpluses from foreign operations, like ExxonMobil producing Guyana's oil, are set aside and can be used for investment purposes to the benefit of the country's economy and citizens over a long-term period. For the Government News Brief, Tiffany Rogers.
The Parole Board continues to play a key role in the rehabilitation of convicted prisoners. Gabriela Patram has more details.
Director of Prisons Acting Gladwin Samuels says that none of the prisoners released on parole have returned to the prison system. Samuels says that in 2016 alone, over 20 prisoners were released on parole after given favorable consideration by the Parole Board. The board, he says, is preparing to evaluate several prisoners who are eligible for parole within the next month.
Coming out of that, the necessary assessment and further evaluation would be done, and if necessary recommendations will be forwarded to the minister in terms of those persons who are deemed eligible for release.
Samuel says that the parole system has been very stringent criteria which must be taken into consideration before any prisoner is considered eligible for parole. Factors examined by the board include prisoners' behavior, attitude, work ethic, and the type of offenses for which they were convicted. The prison's director notes that victims' families must be aware if any convict will be released and potential risks they might pose to society assessed.
Someone must be responsible for them. So there are several things that are taken into consideration. For those capital offenders who, let's say someone who would have murdered the relatives of someone, the relatives are contacted to see how the release of the person on parole might affect them.
Samuel says that once the parole board has reason to believe that the prisoner has not fully met the criteria, that prisoner will not be considered favorably for parole. The parole board is a panel of various stakeholders who decide whether an offender should be released from prison on parole after serving at least a minimum portion of their sentence. For the Government News Brief, Gabrielle Patram.
Management of hinterland agriculture and inland fishing to be strengthened in Region 9. Delicia Haynes tells us more.
Residents in the North Rupununi have indicated their interest in venturing into aquaculture farming. Recognizing this, the government will be providing the necessary support services to ensure that there is a well-developed and sustained fisheries subsector. In an effort to promote a well-rounded subsector, the Ministry of Agriculture through its Department of Fisheries will be strengthening operational ties in Region 9 with the North Rupununi District Development Board. Chief Fisheries Officer Denzel Roberts says that staff will be deployed to ensure that the system is sustained to provide the necessary services with regards to aquaculture.
We have a working relationship with the board, the North Rupununi Development District Board. And they have developed an arapaima management plan, which actually helps to manage the arapaima in the region. However, and then we have had people wanting to go into aquaculture. So what we are hoping is that we would put a staff up there. There's hope that when the station is up, we'll be able to have a staff at the station, maybe even have a recharge station like at our aquaculture station. So basically that's the idea.
The government has committed to invest in the construction and upgrading of facilities in the intermediate savannas. Meanwhile, communities in the North Rupununi have revived fishery committees that will enforce local fishing rules and organize fishing activities. The North Rupununi District Development Board is expected to work extensively with extension and research activities to ensure that protected species like the arapaima remains under the purview of the ministry. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
A team from the Central Housing and Planning Authority today engaged soldiers on the government's housing solutions for state employees. Zanil Williams reports.
Minister within the Ministry of Communities, Valerie Adams Patterson, and a team from CHNPA informed soldiers that the first phase of the Housing Solutions program should benefit 765 families. Minister Adams Patterson says that the government will be maximizing the use of its available service lands to offer a range of housing solutions.
This APNUFC government has decided to move away from one house lot per person. And the reason being, we have over 25,000 applications in the system. We do not have 25,000 serviced house lots to give or to meet the demand of 25,000.
This initiative seeks to provide a serviced housing facility for citizens, roads, water, electricity, and modern amenities. The ministry's focus is to build duplexes and townhouses. Minister Adams Patterson notes that these will accommodate larger numbers of families. This was demonstrated via a presentation. Soldiers raised concerns about previous applications, the process, prices of the units, and titling of the units. Minister Adams Patterson explains that once there is an application, it can be transferred to apply for a unit. The ministry, she adds, will give a letter to qualified persons to take to the bank to purchase a unit.
Once you have an application in the system, and we are taking applications, the year of your application does not necessarily apply to these units because it's who qualified. You might have an application since 2000 in the system, but you may not qualify through the bank. And somebody might have one 2015, 2016 and qualify. We're not going to put that stipulation. So the process is you have to have an application, and as soon as we're ready to go, we'll give you a letter. And when I say ready to go, we're not going to wait until we finish building, From the time we start these units, we're going to begin to pre-qualify people. We give you a letter to the bank, and you can now engage the bank.
The units will be constructed in regions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. Zanil Williams reporting for the Government News Brief.
Residents of Region 3 have been supporting the work of the newly formed Community Organized for a Restored Environment core group in the region. CORE is working to keep communities clean. Delon Sanko has this report.
Launched in February, the Region 3 core group has been transforming communities in Region 3, working with residents to clean up their surroundings. Coordinator of CORE, Charlene Gary, explains some of the work done by the group.
So far, we started off in Canal number 1. We've been cleaning drains within the parapets, cutting trees, beautifying the neighborhood, and assisting the neighbors with whatever little job they have to do, like fixing bridges, their fence and stuff. They work through the whole of canals number 1, and then now we move to Reading Up area, and that's where we are present.
The group consists of 10 employees and is currently supporting the West Coast Road Enhancement Project. Garway notes that the residents are appreciative for the work undertaken in their communities. She adds that many have also been volunteering and working with the group.
The experience is overwhelming. There are days when we out here and we have people from the neighborhood rushing out to us, finding out where we're from and what the project is about, and they're happy because when we leave they like the surrounding, all their drains are clean, the rubbish are clean, and they're very happy. They're even asking if we have jobs. They would come on board if we need volunteer. They're willing to do so because they want to enhance their community.
Meanwhile, Ms. Kelman, who hails from Bell West community at West Bank, Demerara, is grateful to be employed. Kelman says life as a single parent was challenging before CORE.
I'm a proud worker of the CORE group. I feel happy to be one of the beneficiaries of this group. I feel happy that I'm working for my own money as a single parent, and it's very beneficial for me.
Elisa Boudram is a young woman who had challenges at her previous employment. Now Elisa says that she is more comfortable and is happy to support the communities in their region.
I'm proud working. I would like, first of all, thanks for Ministry of Infrastructure for launching this project, and I'm proud to work for my country.
CORE has groups in Bartica, Linden, Ituni, and Kokwani. Other CORE groups will be launched in other communities soon. The group provides for environmental upgrade, drainage, improvement, and general aesthetics of communities. Budget 2017 provide $1.3 billion for special project unit, under which the core groups are being funded. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
This has been another edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GNews website. We encourage you to subscribe to our website and YouTube channel. You can also like and follow us on Facebook to be updated as the news unfolds. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Have a great evening.